Hi, my name is Giselle Aniceto, and the title of my study is The Political Usage of Social Media Apps. And I would like to thank my expert advisor, Brittany Greer, my teacher, Emily Lott, and my peer, Daisy Rivera, for helping me validate my study. Sorry, technical difficulties. Okay, before I begin my presentation, I would like to define a few key phrases and key terms that I will be using throughout my presentation. The first is politically engaged, and this phrase is referring to a person who keeps up with the news in regards to political or public affairs, and this person is typically well informed regarding politics. Twitter is an online news and social networking service which users post and interact with messages known as tweets. Snapchat is a photo sharing application in which photos only last 24 hours and is more personal due to being able to directly chat with somebody. Instagram is similar to Snapchat. It is a photo sharing application and it does also include videos, and it contains more features than Snapchat. The study objective was to analyze the engagement of Chestatee High School students regarding politics and their usage of social media. Therefore, I came to my question, do Chestatee High School students stay informed with politics through the listed apps, Instagram, Twitter, or Snapchat? Moving on to my literature review. Social media users are users who participate in social networking. These users can view and distribute content regardless of the different time zones and regardless of the distance. Social media overall is a way for people to express themselves. Online blogs are often created for people to express their ideologies, regardless if it's about politics, religion, or anything else that they wish to discuss. And actually, the MacArthur Foundation Research Network on Youth and Participatory Politics conducted a survey regarding 15 to 25-year-olds, 3,015 to 25-year-olds, and the study actually found that 41% of young adults had shared an online blog or a video regarding politics at least one time within a school year, a regular year. Another study actually drew a parallel with the study and found that people who have access to the internet are more likely to attend political events such as rallies than people who do not have internet access. Twitter is one of the social media applications that I studied. Twitter can be used by people of different backgrounds. For example, politicians are known to use Twitter constantly to inform their constituents on plans that they envision, and they can also informally influence people of large quantities. Donald Trump was actually disapproved of in the beginning. However, once he began tweeting, people like-minded began to support him and give him the popularity that he needed in order to be elected into the office. I'm not saying that Twitter got him into office, but I'm saying that it was definitely a factor that helped him gain the popularity and support he needed. According to the BI Intelligence, Snapchat was a very popular social media application, and 70% of the users are actually millennials. 7 out of 17 Republican candidates took this into consideration and actually created a Snapchat account. With the more and more people or politicians engaging in social media such as Snapchat, there have been an increase of subscriptions such as BuzzFeed and Cosmopolitan regarding politicians, and it will stream on a daily basis and have more news for people available. I looked at a source regarding Instagram, which is another social media application that I used, and they actually interviewed Kevin Systrom, who is an Instagram representative. He stated that the Obama administration was very successful in demonstrating the day-to-day activities of the White House, and he also stated that the 2016 presidential elections allowed for a closer look. By doing so, Instagram users were able to see what was going on during the presidential campaigns, and they overall felt more closer and connected to the presidential campaigns. sources are significant in my research. However, these sources failed to include the variety of political party affiliations of Instagram users. They failed to discuss the effect of Donald Trump's tweets on high school students. And they also failed to discuss the increased number of high school students using Snapchat, and that may be due to the Republican presidential candidates being on Snapchat. Therefore, I decided to fill in the gap of the body of knowledge. Moving on to my method. Just as a quick reminder, my research question states, do Chestatee High School students stay informed of politics through the listed apps, Instagram, Twitter, or Snapchat? The design that I applied to my study was the descriptive survey design. I felt that this design was more appropriate because I wanted to find information regarding how people were using social media, and I did this through a series of 9 questions. This was more appropriate than the face-to-face interview, which could have been used. However, the face-to-face interview would not be feasible due to the fact that I would not be able to interview so many people and gather such large amounts of responses. Thankfully, with the descriptive survey design, I was able to gather 150 responses. My subjects were Chestatee High School seniors and members of both the Young Republicans and Young Democrats Club. I felt that these participants were ideal because I made the assumption that since Chestatee High School seniors are of age to vote in a legal election, I decided that they were more than likely to be staying updated with politics. And I also thought that the members of the Young Republicans and Young Democrats would be ideal participants because they are already in clubs that are already affiliated with the political party. Therefore, I thought that they were staying politically updated. Ethical considerations. My proposal for this research topic was reviewed by the Institutional Review Board to ensure that no ethical violations were breached. And at the beginning of each school year, each student receives agenda pages. These agenda pages are for their parents to sign, giving them permission to participate in surveys. And I ensured that in my survey, I included a checkbox. If a student did not fill the checkbox stating that they had permission to take the survey, I eliminated them from my responses. I also made sure that the students did not classify as either their grade level or by their name. Rather, I required them to identify themselves as either a senior, a member of the Young Republicans, or a member of the Young Democrats. My instruments used in my research were a 9-question survey, and this was, of course, just to see what applications are being used and why. And in order to access my survey, I created a QR code, which is essentially a barcode, and what I did is I made it on a slip of paper, and I told the participants that if they scanned it with their cellular device using a camera, then they would be able to be directed to my survey. Therefore, it was very quick and I did not have to write the link on the board or for them to type in the URL code. So I made the QR code, to be more efficient. My procedure, the very first step I took was creating a survey. And after that, I asked for permission from the club sponsors and the senior advisement director to ensure that I could survey their students. And after I gained permission, I created a QR code, like I stated earlier, so that my participants could be reaching my survey at an efficient pace. And after the QR code was distributed, I analyzed the data that was collected. Moving on to my findings and analysis. I felt that this question was very impactful for my research, and it states, which of the following apps do you use most on a daily basis to stay informed on political events? As you can see, the Instagram application is not used very much. In fact, only 20.4 of the participants use Instagram the most on a daily basis. And of the 150 participants, only 23.2 of the participants use Twitter the most. It is very evident that Snapchat is dominated here at Chestatee High School, and this actually contradicts one of the sources that I studied. The interview with Kevin Systrom, an Instagram representative, stated that Instagram has the most amount of daily users. However, in my findings, I found that Snapchat is actually used the most. And Kevin Systrom may have been biased and may have been wanting to promote his social media, which is Instagram, instead of actually taking into account how many people use Snapchat. Therefore, if a political pundit in the future wanted to campaign using social media, he or she should do so using the Snapchat application because it is clearly the most dominant here at Chestatee High School. My second question states, if you stay politically updated, which of the following is the most important reason to use one app over another? It is clear that all three groups voted that the features of the app was very significant to them. In fact, 49 out of the 150 participants chose that answer. Meanwhile, the accounts that are followed was not very significant. As you can see, 0 Young Democrats voted for that. Meanwhile, only 10 seniors voted for that one, and I believe 4 Young Republicans stated that that was very significant to them. So if a political pundit wanted to make sure that he was becoming heard of, he would make sure that the accounts followed were, that students were not following accounts because it's not very important to students. And the accessibility of the app refers to the difficulty of using the app, and not many students chose that. It wasn't very popular, and the popularity of the app was also not chosen much. In the far left, I have the other option, but when I created my survey, I did not anticipate so many people choosing the other option, therefore I didn't put the open response. But if in the future I were to replicate my survey, I would give them the choice to put in what the option other meant to them. And I knew that features were going to play an important role. Therefore, I also asked the question, if you answered features to the question above, what type of features do you find most useful? Live streaming is not very relevant anymore. In fact, the trending topics page seems to be the dominating answer choice in this, with, I believe, 49 of the 150 users choosing that choice. And stories, which are unique to Snapchat and Instagram, was also a popular choice. However, not as many people chose that as the trending topics page. Only 34 people chose that one. And subscriptions such as Cosmopolitan and BuzzFeed was only chosen by 27 students. So not many people are paying attention to the subscriptions. Hashtags are not very relevant. In fact, only 4 people said that they think hashtags are important features to them. And like I stated on the other question, the option other was not anticipated to have so many responses. Therefore, if I were to go back and replicate the survey, I would give them the open-ended response so that they could fill in what they believed was important to them. Therefore, my conclusion is that yes, social media is being used at Chestatee High School. However, it is not being used for political purposes. Limitations of my study were that the first time that I was trying to collect research, my software was malfunctioning. I was not able to record the responses, and I was set back 2 weeks by that, actually. So the second time that I went to do my research and collect data, not as many participants wanted to take my survey because they had already done so once before. Therefore, I was not able to gather as many responses as I had hoped. Another limitation was that students were identifying as more than one thing. For example, some students were identifying as a senior, a young Republican, and a young Democrat, when in reality that does not line up, and it made my data skewed. And another limitation was that seniors were not debriefed. There was a large amount of seniors, and I could not debrief all of them, as well as the fact that I was in my advisement as well. Future directions. The survey can be distributed to a larger population in the future. If a larger population were to receive my survey, there'd be more accuracy in what social media application is being used. And another future direction is that if a political pundit were to campaign, they would figure out, okay, features is very important to these students, therefore they should be making sure that they're ending up on the special features, or if, for example, they wanted to be heard of more, they could go to the trending topics. They could ensure that they are ending up on the trending topics rather than a hashtag, because the hashtag was just not very popular among students. And these are my works cited. At this moment, I will be glad to answer any questions.
How did you evaluate the sources you collected to make sure they would be credible, valid, and reliable? Which sources did you discard and why?
The sources that I discarded were the ones that were on Google. I knew the sources on Google would not be peer-reviewed, and I knew that they were not academic journals. Therefore, I decided to look at sources that were on search engines provided by my school, such as Galileo, Questia, and I figured that by discarding the other sources, I could use my peer-reviewed sources and the ones that were academic journals.
What additional questions emerged during your research? And based on your recent experience, what advice would you give to other researchers who might choose to investigate those questions?
A question that definitely emerged was whether or not students are staying updated with politics, but for example, staying updated through newspaper or to television shows. I know that a lot of people are on YouTube watching YouTube bloggers, so I figured maybe they're updated with politics through the YouTube bloggers. And if so, I would give the advice to people to not just narrow it down to only 3 social media applications like I did, but to figure out if they are also staying updated through YouTube or other resources.
Okay, what unanticipated turn did you encounter as your research progressed? What were the reasons for this change in direction or focus, and how did you modify your method or approach?
An unanticipated turn was that my software did not collect responses. It only collected 2 out of, I believe, 40. So what I had to do was I had to modify my link, my survey, and actually make it accessible to all people, regardless if they have if they have a Google account with my school, or if they are using a personal email. And I was set back 2 weeks, so I remade my QR code as well, and then I sent it out again. But this time I was more in time crunch to get my results. Therefore, I was texting my email or texting my link to the people for them to take the survey.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We have time for an additional not drafted question if you all have one.
What surprised you about what you found?
Initially, I had done 1 round first, and I was surveying the people during club time, which is different from the advisement time, which seniors were given the survey during senior or advisement. And what actually surprised me is that the students in the political clubs were not staying updated with politics either. Even though they were in a political club, they did not seem to care about politics as much. I guess it's just they want to be in a club and they joined it, but they're not staying updated either.
Interesting.
All right, ma'am.